Hello everybody and welcome back to another game of Rory's Story Dice. Today we're gonna do 3 more stories based on the sizes we get. The sizes of the dice we get. And I'm gonna grab the first 9. If I could just grab some, I'll just grab the first 9 on top, that might be handier. Let's see, this is 2, this is 4, 7, 8 and 9. This one goes back. There he goes. Okay, so we're going to go for another 5 and 4 roll round. Here we have an egg that's been cracked for some reason. Whoops, and once again, of course, once I got all of these things lined up, you can just pause your video to see if you can come up with a better story than me before I come up with my story, of course. Let's see, this looks like an amoeba or something. That should be your bottom of the screen. This is a speech balloon like you use in comics. And there you go. And this is a fountain once again. There, like that. And this is a treasure chest. There, that's the first 4 of them in. Now, next one. Hoppa! Once again, the horse of Troy is back. Trojan horse. This is a shipping crate. And this looks like one of those lamps that stick on top of police cars. And these are gears, alrighty. And we have an eye. Ooh, mysterious. Alright, so this is the part where you pause the video to make sure to come up with your own story. Now let's take a look what we have here. We have a fountain, a Trojan horse. We don't really have a character. Except, let's see now. I think I'll start with... Where shall we start? I'll start with... Once upon a time, in a small town somewhere in the middle of the United States, like a small town USA, you know the place, and they have one fountain in the middle of the town, and that's where everybody gathers. During one hot summer's day, everybody came around and started talking to each other because it was Saturday afternoon, they didn't have much else to do, so they just talked to Billy, Joe, and Bob about whatever their week had been about. And everything went fine, except when one kid decided to take a drink from the fountain because it was pretty warm. And that turned out to be a mistake because even though normally the water would be okay to drink, even though you shouldn't probably drink straight from fountains, in this particular case the water had been infected by amoeba and the temperature made the water a perfect breeding ground for them. So they eventually got inside his system. There it is, the system, and they messed things up. So eventually, just like a Trojan horse, they infected his body more and more, and during the night when he was sleeping, he eventually opened Pandora's box, at least the amoeba did. The amoeba, let's go over their ear, there we go. Open the Pandora's box, here's the box itself. Put that in there as well, just a little bit sneaky use of dice here. And when he woke up, he wasn't quite himself actually. His eyes were all weird and red, and he started trying to eat people's brains, and that was a bit inconvenient, so they eventually had to call the cops on him, and they had to take him down, unfortunately, the poor kid, but not before the amoeba spread to other people. Oh no, and they too got the message, or got their systems messed up, and eventually turned into zombies, so the police had to do even more shooting, and after a while there was nobody left in town because, well, everybody was dead, so there was nobody left to talk to. So that was basically the end of this small town USA town without a name and now also without a population. It's quite sad, but it's true. And that was the story of our amoeba friend and the kid who drank the water. So that was the first story. That was very fast. I'm going to put these aside so I don't grab them a second time, or at least not during the second round. I'm going to grab 9 new dice from the bag. Hang on. La 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 la. A little bit of waiting music. Oops, how many do I have here in my hand? That looks like 7, and 2 makes 9. There you go. Alrighty then. 5 plus 4. Oopsie, not these, I haven't rolled them yet. Okay, we might even continue our story. Here's a bunch of magic beans, and here's somebody who's happy about them. There you go. Here's a sign of much goodness, you should eat that. Here's the guy who comes to bring it, the candy man. Here's a crab, for no particular reason. And now come the other 4. Oh yeah. Here's somebody who is not happy about it, apparently. Here's an elephant. Oh, he's been combined with that one before. And here's a moon, a crescent moon, and this is somebody inside some type of gigantic tube, like you would see in a lab, a scientist lab. Interesting, interesting. Pause the video here if you want to make a story before I do something weird with them. And see if your story is anything like mine. Probably not. And make sure to post them in the comments below, because I like to read what your mind came up with and compare it to what mine did. See what you are thinking like and what I'm thinking like. So while you've had this time to stall, I think we're going to go on a similar vein as last time. But in this case, we're going to continue with our elephant friend. Because as you remember, last time, he drank a cup of something in which he wasn't sure of what it was some type of alien thing. And he became toxic and he died and eventually became toxic waste. So people had to come and clean up the savannah where he was laying and decomposing. And some of those people actually got sick. So they went from being happy to have a nice job and a nice suit that goes with it, to being fairly unhappy and a bit sick. And since they worked for a scientific corporation, a scientific lab, the guy got, well, put in a tube basically. I'm looking for a word here and I can't quite think of it. He was isolated, because otherwise people might get quarantined. That's the word I was looking for. He's quarantined inside one of these test tubes, which he thought was a bit weird because there's no like slot for pancakes to put like under the door and all that sort of thing. He got fed through a tube and he wasn't quite sure what it was. He also couldn't taste it because the tube went right into his stomach. It turns out later though that it was smushed with crab for no particular reason, but the salt and the protein in there was apparently good for keeping him buoyant and also fed. Alright, so that was that, and it took them about a month to figure out what the heck was wrong with this guy. But they weren't quite sure what it was, which of course is a bit of a problem if you work in a science lab and one of your own people has been stuck in a tube. They thought they would be able to save him and send him home and to his family in like less than a couple of days, but it turned out to be a month. But long after a while, they had to conclude that they had no idea what was going on. So to make sure that his family wasn't going to be too upset for too long, they said, "Hey guys, you know that guy that used to be part of your family who showed up at Christmas dinner and who's now not going to ever do that again because he's infectious and you probably shouldn't see him ever again? And you won't? Well, he's not going to come back like I said, but here we have some magic beans. Great, you can go and plant the beanstalk and go up and get some golden eggs or something like that, because that's what happens, right, in fairy tales? And anything is possible, so here's your beans." And they were like, "Yay, we got magic beans. I've always wanted one of those ever since I read the story, and we're gonna forget about the guy in the test tube because he was kind of a day bag." Anyway, didn't make much money, but he did have a nice suit. So, they planted beans and waited for their gigantic beanstalk to grow. Because that's family. Alright, so that's that one. Now I'm going to put these aside. Over here, I'm going to add the others back. Actually, I'm going to leave them there so I can grab some of the remaining dice, which we haven't seen yet. I want to make sure to get as many different dice in today as possible. This is 5 of them. And plus 4. Yep, makes 9. And that's round 3 underway. Put you aside for a moment. Hup. What do we got here? We have a fairy, always useful. We have a cane, walking stick. This is a gauge meter of some sort. This is a flower, obviously, and this is a turtle. Once again, we've had him before. And the next 4. Well, that one didn't roll much. Oh yeah. Now we have a chess piece. We have a web. And an L, which in some countries means that you're learning to drive. And we have Mount Olympus once again, because if you have a ferry, you need Mount Olympus and apparently a pressure gauge. Okay, well, pause the video here to come up with your story. I'm gonna try to figure out what I'm gonna do with mine, but I'll see you in a moment. First of all, of course, I'm gonna pull these guys back so we can get some space. We're gonna start with the fairy, because he was already up here and it's the only character that looks somewhat sentient. The fairy was actually a god from Olympus, but he got turned into a fairy by Zeus because Zeus was upset with him. He's like, you know what, you go ahead and fly around as a fairy for a while, see how you like it. So while he was wandering around, sniffing flowers and all that sort of thing, waiting for his punishment to end, he had an idea. I mean, he didn't have much mobility other than flying, but if he could learn to drive a car, that would be something. So he went and asked somebody to help him out, and most places didn't really know what to do with him because he was a fairy, and they didn't have any fairy-sized cars. But eventually he ended up finding a turtle who said, you know what, I may not be a car, but I can certainly show you the ropes. I can teach you how to do stuff. I know how you have to press the pedals and what order and all that sort of thing. I don't have a steering wheel, but I do have a little aid for you to use. Also, you'll find on my back there is actually a speedometer. Is that what you call that thing? Tells you how fast you're going. And so the fairy climbed on back and he looked and he's like, hey, you know, you're right, all this stuff is here. What the heck? And also there is a chess piece. Because, no idea. No, it's just a turtle, that's not a chess piece, that's actually a stick, you know. I'm not an automatic, you need to use a stick in order to get me in first, second, third, and all that sort of gears. Oh, says the fairy, that's interesting, I didn't know that. So, they head off. And after a while of driving, he feels fairly confident, but they end up turning a sharp corner and ending up in a gigantic spider's web, which was a bit difficult to come through because it was a very special spider, a spider that was also from Mount Olympus, yet another god who was, or had upset Zeus and had now to spend some time as a spider. And this person came out and looked at what he had caught and he saw the fairy. He's like, what are you doing riding a turtle? Is that a chess piece? And the fairy's like, it's not. It's like a stick for driving turtles, like, you know. Because suddenly he was a valley girl. And he said, well, if you don't let me out of this website, let me out of this website. If you don't let me out of this web right now, I'm going to tell Zeus and you're going to spend another eternity as a snail or something like that. I'm going to tell on you if you don't let me go. And the spider guy's like, okay, fine, you win. But if you crash that turtle over there, I'll take it, and it'll be mine. And this thing, or the fairy, not the thing, said, you're on. So, the turtle and the fairy went on their merry way, and they drove quite well, actually. Eventually, they even ended up driving up the hill, after a while reaching Mount Olympus itself, where they encountered Zeus, and they retold their tale of woe and driving skills and learning and flowers. And after a while, you know, the fairy felt kind of sorry for the spider dude. He's like, hey, could you, I don't know. I mean, I don't mind spending some more time as a fairy and driving around a turtle. It's kind of fun. If you would postpone bringing me back to my normal way of being, could you instead return this guy to his usual manners? And Zeus was like, okay, fine. I guess I'll have to do that. It was a bit boring anyway, but still, I guess a deal's a deal. He's going to be back to his usual self, and you can now disappear from my view before I get mad at you again and turn you into a cow or something like that. And the fairy said, okay, that's great. Turtle, let's get the hell out of there. And so they did. They went, oops, and they turned to a scarab. They went off back down Mount Olympus, and they were never heard from or seen again. The end. So the last one was a little bit more over the place than usual. Still, we ended up having some sort of narrative, not much, but some, and some is more than nothing, so that's good. Alright, so that's the story dice for this week. Make sure to share your stories below, I'm looking forward to them. I'll see you next time, bye bye for now.